Hi, good morning to all listeners, especially to Dr. Judith Maghanoy. I am Dory Algabid. Today, I show my video presentations and discuss about my insight for a guiding principles and the assessments of learning. So let's start. Yesterday from Dola Alicia Marie, the first reporter, she discussed about the first episodes of Field Study 5, which is the assessments for learning, assessments as learning, and assessments of learning, and how are they practiced. So can I take a moment to ask you what is a guiding principles of learning and the assessments of learning? What is guiding principles and the assessments of learning? Assessments of learning, it is the essential dimensions of all learning experience. In addition to determining, certifying the degree which learning outcomes have been made, assessments direct attention to what is important. It acts as an incentive for study, and it has a powerful on what students do it and how they do it. So the whole of assessing student learning have involved us or understanding and how assessments practice can motivate and engage learner, and how reflections and feedback on those experiences can have a significant impact on learning. What are the following principles that we should guide and conduct of assessments? Number one, begin by specifying clearly and exactly what you want to assess. What you want to assess is are stated in your learning outcomes. Lessons objective, for example, the teacher drafting, the technical drafting institute qualifications consists of competencies that a person's must achieve to enable him here to draft architectural layout and details are in structural layout, mechanical layout, electronic layout, plumbing layout, sanitary layout, and mechanical layouts, and of course the computer editing using the system, and the manual drafting method. Number two, the intended learning outcomes. Lessons objective, not content, is the basis of the assessment task. You use content in the development of the assessment tool and task, but it is the achievement of your learning outcomes, not content that you want to assess. This is outcome-based teaching and learning. So for me, I believe those our teacher does not lose anything if as he she teaches, he she checks for the understanding now and then. This proceeds further or comes near the end of the task and unit or course or gradings period. The students understood the lesson. Okay, number three, set your of success or acceptable standard of success. It is, again, this established standard you will interpret your assessment result. For example, for any types of assessments, you first must know where you want to end up, what are your goals for your student, and assessments cannot produce valid inference unless it is measures what it is intended to measure, and it cannot measure what is intended unless the goals has been clearly and identified. Okay, number 4, make use of varied tools for assessments, data gathering, and multiple source of assessment data. It is not pedagogical sound to rely on just one source of data gathered by only one of assessment tool. Consider multiple intelligence and learning style. David Older number 8, 2015, cite the use of multiple ways of measuring student varying abilities and learning potential. Okay, for me, those are continuous gathering of assessments and using multiple method of meaningful, authentic tasks and a real situations track student learning over time and is essential in developing a comprehensive of student learning. The purpose of assessments determine whether it will use in a summative or formative assessments. Okay, number 5, learners must be given feedback about their performance. Feedback must be specific, is a positive feedback, and is welcome, but actually it is not a very good feedback since it is not as specific. A more specific, better feedback is you observe rules on subject verb agreement and variety of sentences. 3 of your commas were misplaced. For example, feedback like great job doesn't tell the learner what he or she did right, and likewise a statement such as not quit there yet doesn't give here any insight what he or she did wrong and how she or he can do better next time around. Instead, researchers suggest taking the time to provide learner with information on what exactly they did well and what might still need improvement. They also note that it can be helpful to tell the learner what he or she is doing differently than before. Okay, number 6, assessment should be on real-world applications and not on out-of-context drill. For me as a teacher, these assessments should be on real-world applications that favor realistic performances over out-of-context drill items. Hands-on assessments most focus on real-life applications as well as developing higher-order thinking skills, show on analyzing, evaluating, and most of all, creating. Example, improving student higher-order thinking skills, and it is a collaborative process between all subject teachers, and it can be taught for all levels of studying. Okay, number 7, emphasize on the assessment of higher order thinking. Okay, for me, I believe as a teacher, we are responsible to improving student higher order thinking skills is a formative experience, one teacher of a specific subject cannot alone improving the higher order thinking skills. That some under the general principles for assessing higher order thinking are specify clearly and exactly what you want to assess, design tasks or test items that require student to demonstrate his knowledge or skill, decided what you will take as a evidence of degree to which student have shown this knowledge or skill. Okay, number 8, provide opportunities for self-assessment. Self-assessment is defined as the involvement of learners in making judgment about their achievement and the outcomes of their learning, and is a valuable approach to supporting student learning, particularly when used formatively. Self-assessment support student learning and is one of the most important skills that students require for a future professional development and lifelong learning as it develops their capacity to be assessors of learning. Okay, so in order to follow the learning assessment, all of that the teacher will be remarkable from their teaching, like Sir Lajhasan, school teacher grade 7 from Zamboanga National High School. West, or simply called West, is a school or RT Lim Boulevard, Zamboanga City. He said during her class assessment following by the questions. Okay, the first questions, which assessment tools did resource as a teacher use? Sir Lajhasan, he said it's simple. Recall types before introducing new subject matter. He gave a recitations to his class for him to assess them if they still remember their past topic, and he said the rubric was one of the assessment tools used by that teacher. Printed sets of criteria for assessing knowledge, performance, or product, and for giving feedback. The following tools are example of rubric and how they are used in school. The second questions, and give example of teacher on students work answer. One of the positive feedback given were great job and good work. The teacher interacted with the students on how she is going to grade the presentation. Okay, the third questions, and how was this demonstrated? The resource teacher demonstrated how to construct another words from the long words and how they interacted with the students on how he is going to grade the presentation. Okay, the fourth questions. How was this done? The fourth questions, observing is done by the resource teacher and students. Discussions using higher order thinking skill. Questions like how and why the learners are asked. how to from another words from the long words they send. And the fifth questions, were students given the opportunity to do self-assessment? From Sir Hassan is giving me example for this is when after the learners construct another words from the long words that they sense, the resource teacher let the learners check the words they construct if it is belong to the long words. Okay, that's all for all my discussions.